Comedy, some comedy stuff.
Yeah, comedy. You know, and it's. I mean, every now and then you'll get a writer that does something that they're they're very passionate about the art, so they're crafty with how they write. Like you can tell in the writing that they have trickery in the writing.
Okay.
So they'll because in improvisational they do give you a script, but they don't give you the dialogue.
Okay. They give you like the situation.
They'll give you the situation, and you have to act it out.
Okay.
So
that's like Curb Your Enthusiasm is like that.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But you get some writers, like even his writer, like some of the situations, they're complex situations.
Right.
You get some people that just give you basic situations, the standard, girl, guy goes out on a date, doesn't turn out well.
Right.
You know what I
mean? But that's not good writing though, right? Because it doesn't give you enough. Doesn't give you enough to go on, right? It's kind of like lazy. Yeah.
So, and usually those type things I like for like commercials.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But like for like movie scripts, is more of it's a higher level attribute that's put into it.
Yeah.
So that it's hard to find those type scripts.
Okay.
Those come along. Twice a year I find one that I'm attracted.
Did you do any notable independent filmmakers?
Nothing really major.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really major. I had a lot of opportunities, but I personally felt that I needed to hone my craft more.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of stayed at a certain mid-level, category.
Yeah.
So
how big were the parts that you played in like the indie films and stuff?
Like it's crazy, because there's this one that I did. It was called The Last Ghost Tour.
The Last Ghost Tour?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a ghost tour. People wanting a ghost tour. They wanted to get signed up to go on a ghost tour
mm-hmm.
at some point. And the movie takes place on the tour bus.
Okay.
And from that point on. And so the whole gist of it was basically they signed up to go on this ghost tour. They go on this ghost tour, but as they're going on the tour, they're making different passengers are getting on the bus.
Okay.
But they're not getting on the traditional way of getting on the bus. They're like falling onto the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Still in, they're just appearing like, you know what I'm saying, like the opposite of evaporating. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but at some point they realize as they leave the bus, as they learn their lesson, because they're actually the ghosts.
Okay.
But they don't know it. They don't know that they're dead.
So the people taking the tour are the ghosts?
Yeah, they are the ghosts.
Okay.
They don't know that they're dead, and they're actually going to purgatory.
Right.
And it's crazy because it was ahead of its time, and the character I played in there was a politician.
Okay.
Right. So Now we're talking like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And but the profile that I used, that I based my character off of, was the senator of Illinois.
Okay.
10 years ago, which was Barack Obama.
Oh wow!
Right. That was my voice character profile. So, because I was always impressed how eloquent he spoke, how eloquent he was.
Yeah.
So, but
wait, this was after he was already president, or
no? This was 2 years before he was president.
Oh, okay. So you're talking 2006.
Yeah, like 2006.
Okay.
So the other person that, no, I'm sorry, it was 2 years into his presidency.
Okay.
2 years into his presidency.
Okay.
The other person, now the profile that I based my character off of was Elliot Spitzer.
Okay.
So basically, I was a politician that my only concern was becoming the president.
Okay.
And I did. My name was Richard Headley.
Okay.
Everybody called me Dickhead.
Right.
And I was based myself off of Elliot Spitzer, and I was very, very. I was very everything you hear right now about politicians. You know what I'm saying? Like with the other females that was on the tour, the other ghosts, the female ghosts.
Okay.
So I was just a smut bag politician.
Okay.
You know, so it's an interesting joint. You gotta watch it. You can see it on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Cool.
You can check it out.
And what's it called?
It's called The Last Ghost Tour.
The Last Ghost Tour. Cool.
Yeah. Last Ghost Tour. Last Ghost Tour. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was different.
This was all filmed down in Atlanta?
Part was filmed in Atlanta and part was filmed in Florida.
Okay.
There was a portion that we did a cemetery part, and we stopped at a cemetery. It's a point where we stop at the cemetery, and we're picking up the grave digger.
Okay.
You know, he actually died, and we're picking up his ghost.
Okay.
But we think it's just another past. Like I said, we don't know what we did. So
right.
It was crazy. But what I was saying about it was the way the movie, it was done way before a lot of this was happening, but it was a very prophetic movie.
Okay.
You know, a very prophetic movie. One of the characters was a female president. One of the ghosts was a female president, and she was the first female president. Her name was Palin Sarah. No, her name was Parasailing. It was Parasailing. And
That's so funny. That works on a few levels.
Right. You feel me? Like it was crazy. Like after the fact, it was crazy. Like, wow, you know. It's just one of them things you gotta see, man. You gotta see.
Yeah.
You gotta see. I built some great. Like I was in the. There was David Mapes was in that. He was. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean and back in the day, that movie, remember them collectible cards, Garbage Pail Kid?
Yeah, Garbage Pail Kids, yeah.
Yeah, he was in that.
Oh, okay.
And it was a few people that was in there. That's crazy. It was so long ago, I don't remember their names, but there were some great actors. They were some great actors.
Would you say his name was David Mates?
Mapes, Mapes.
Word. How was your Father's Day?
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was with the kids.
Yeah.
It's always a beautiful thing.
I was watching a little bit of the video that we taped, and just like as you were saying, generational wealth, your son pops in the screen. And I was thinking, I was like, whether you have money or not, you know, having a child, that's like generational wealth in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when you have a child, you know, I look at it like this. It's not just that you want your kids to do better than you.
Yeah.
It's you want what you've done. You want your kids to take what you've done and enhance that to make themselves do better.
Okay.
You know? And that's how generational wealth occurs.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
And you know, and that's crazy because it just, and the problem is that we don't invest.
Is that what?
The problem is with Black people or people, I won't even say Black people. People in this, I'm trying to get away from identifying to color.
Right.
You know, reducing myself to a color.
Sure.
The problem with most people that are not in the 1%, they don't invest.
Right.
And it's crazy because like they're not even aware that the market is not like, it's not like it used to be, like what you know of the market, what you know of Wall Street, where you had to have a suit and tie on. And you know, you can invest, like sitting in your house, invest.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people they scared, but and the only reason they scared is because, and this is just my theory, I think that they are subconsciously conditioned to instantaneous results.
Right. Right.
So they're expecting a flip, a quick flip.
Right.
That's very rare. You know what I mean? For that to happen.
Sure.
You know, that's, I mean, you got a better chance of pulling the slot lever.
Right.
Your money.
Yeah.
But if you just pick a stock and you invest in it and just ride with that joint, 20, 30 years, you're gonna have some bread.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're gonna be up a few $100,000.
Yeah.
You know, and investing is not to change your current situation.
It's for the long run. The long haul.
Long run. So, you know, at that time, you know, you might not be alive in 20, 30 years.
Right.
But your lineage is. And that 300, 400, 500,000 is probably worth more at that time. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how generational wealth occurs.
Right.
That's how, you know, people born into money, you know?
Right. Sure. I guess somewhere down the
That's the
line,
one thing.
someone has to be smart enough to take whatever that 500,000 turns into and not to blow it and to add on to it. Right.
Just keep investing.
Oh, you mean just hold on to it and just keep it
Yeah,
invested?
you just keep investing it, because whatever you need, you can get it off your dividends.
Okay.
You make all that money back. You know what I'm saying? You can get it off your dividends, your profits, of what you make. You live off them profits.
Okay.
I mean, the only things you just think about it, that you're only gonna need like maybe 5 major things: a place to live, a vehicle, maybe a tuition, depending on how many children you got. You know what I mean? Like, once you got that covered, you know, your 9 to 5 is just living.
Right.
And that's that. I think that's that cushion. That's that cushion that separates us.
Yeah.
You know, the people that are privy of that and do it, take that risk, they have that cushion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they may not acknowledge it in times of when their finances are low. They may not even acknowledge it, forget about it. You know what I mean? Just let it grow.
Yeah.
But it's a cushion where they can stress and not really stress.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, worst come to worst, you can take care of the situation.
Right.
You know?
Yep. It's like people who say I'm broke, but they still have a big savings that
they just don't want to go into their savings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because there's penalties for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way our banking system is set up, if you save money and you take it out, then we charge you.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of other people get a portion that don't even know you got this money, but they do now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That type
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
I got a situation where I think I'm going to be owed some money back for when my money was inadvertently taken out of my 401k and given to me as a check when I didn't ask for that to happen. But I kept asking my job to like help me merge a 401k from a past job that I still had money in to like this current job, and they kept saying, "Oh, just go to the website, just do this and that." And I kept telling them it wasn't working, and then finally, one day I come home from traveling, working, and I got this check sitting there. I'm wondering what it is, and then I see it's like my 401k. So that's gonna have to be dealt with, whatever penalties I lost or whatever, even like whatever money accrued I lost. Not that it was sitting there more than, probably a few months, but whatever penalties I paid and be owed back.
Oh yeah, they're gonna definitely have to set that right. Especially if you didn't request for a cash out.
Yeah, exactly. I would never do that.
Yeah, you hold on to that 401k because you're gonna need it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely gonna need it. And you think you so what do you think about NASA and space travel and Mars?
Yeah, I mean, I think think you can learn interesting things from space travel. People always complain like, fix what is down here before you go to space. But like, I mean, the curiosity and the science that goes into it is part of what makes us curious and advanced. You know?
Right. I don't know. I just want to know what the obsession with outer space is.
I mean, it would be like if you were inside a building and you had all this land around you, trees, forests, animals, wildlife, plantation, veggies, and you just simply didn't explore it. And you were like, what's the big deal about it?
Fact.
You know, it's like out there, and it's our inclination to be inquisitive and to wonder what's out there, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's a forbidden territory. Like we're not supposed to be out there.
Well, I mean, I could see that. I mean, it feels like definitely harsh territory, right? No air.
Right. No gravity, nothing.
No gravity. No
it's
atmosphere.
It's like emptiness.
Yeah. Man, there's some interesting things out there, like the.
But then they say every star is a sun.
Yeah. Yep. And every
so
sun gives life to planets.
There's definitely other life out there.
There's other water planets. There's other Earth-like planets that have the, you know, that have all the makings of a planet that would hold life. What kind of life, we don't know. We don't know how advanced. It could be like some amoeba or something. It could be like something that to the average person.
I don't think it's us out there.
Right.
I definitely don't think it's us.
Then again, I mean, if not a us, there could be something similar enough in some of these planets that, you know, have some of the whole same making. But then there could be life that's like so different we couldn't even fathom it. Like our whole carbon-based existence that we base life on. There could be life that has a whole different existence that we don't think is possible right now. You know.
True. I don't know. I do know being human is probably the most complex thing I ever encountered in my life. I do know that. So encountering another complex thing. Who's this?
That's Joey.
Joey.
Hey, what's up, KD?
Hey, what's good, man?
Good with you, man.
I'm pretty good. Trying to turn the video on. Looks like I not on here.
I did that when I first came on too.
Yeah. I guess it's gonna be a running gag though that Ish is gonna be the one who never shows his face.
Yeah, he was saying earlier he probably wasn't probably gonna wait till later in the week, probably till like Friday or something.
So that's good. It creates a little bit of dramatic anticipation. Like people are gonna be tuning in, wondering what this mysterious Ish actually looks like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like a variety. It's something like a variety show.
Totally.
Yeah, I thought he was actually doing it on purpose.
Yeah, maybe.
It's kind of funny because before Ish came around, me and my boy had this idea for a show called Let's Get Serious. So the first show where Ish wasn't around and I was doing my thing, I just called it Let's Get Serious. So might have an alternate title when Ish is not around.
Yeah. Sound cool.
Yeah.
It does sound cool. I think you you still have the page for that up that I clicked like on. Was that supposed to be like a parody show or something?
Yeah. So the page is a parody. It's basically a Blacks for Trump parody. And you see the top of the page has that like misspelling, like it says like the Democrats haven't been this pissed since
The Civil War.
since the Republicans freed the slaves or something like that. Especially just making fun of Black people that are for Trump.
Yeah, that's great. Like Candace Owens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And the patron of the page is Sheriff what's his name, John Clark?
David Clark, I think.
David Clark, yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Milwaukee.
Yeah, so basically I imagine this show as like a Black Colbert kind of character. And you know how Bill O'Reilly is like Papa Bear to Colbert? Well,
Yeah.
David Clark would be like, you know, Papa Bear to my character.
That would be great. Yeah, that's hilarious. I would love to see. I would love to see you like in character as a right-wing guy. It's just funny to think of.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, I think it was just like this cathartic idea I came up with because shit was just going so crazy with Trump. And then, you know, I had some people in the family that won't be named that were like in that direction or all for Trump.
Wow.
So I was just like, let me just let me just see what it would be like. I kind of messed around in a bar one time and just pretended to be a right-wing, you know, person who was like in that direction. But it's more shocking when it's a Black person doing it. And it can even be shocking when it's a Black person doing it around white people, you know, like kind of like making them uncomfortable.
Yeah, like white liberals in New York who wouldn't expect it probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did they actually believe you?
I don't remember how far I took it. I don't remember if I ever told them I was joking. It was just, you know, that's just what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, who would have known that there would have been more Blacks for Trump than when, you know, I started that joke, or that there would have been a Candace who, I don't know if anyone can get under your skin like a Candace does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the funny thing about it. That now, like, you almost wonder if because of her, in a sense, it almost would just seem like beyond parody.
Right.
I mean, a lot of things.
I was just going to say, she makes Stacey Dash like look good.
Yeah. That's a crazy thing. It's like the crazy thing about Colbert and Jon Stewart, when I think back on them, is really what a more innocent time that seems, even though it really wasn't, just because I feel like we've reached the point now where political satire has almost become obsolete. Like, there's nothing that really would just seem too absurd anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they've satirized themselves.
Yeah.
Remember Silk and Diamond?
Oh yeah, the two grandmothers who were for Trump.
Yeah, I couldn't tell for a long time if they were real or not. If they were supposed to be funny, because they were just so ridiculous.
Yeah, and
you know who I'm talking about, right? Silk and
yeah.
Diamond?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be funny, though, if they turned out to be parody, because a lot of right-wingers took them seriously. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned Colbert, because I remember in 2006, like before he was invited to the famous White House press correspondents dinner. There was actually like this one point at which, and you could probably find the archived page, there was when like Tom DeLay was under indictment, the Defend DeLay pack like actually posted a Stephen Colbert video thinking he was a real conservative that said something like, "Watch Colbert tear the libs a new one."
Okay, I was gonna say I do remember a time when people didn't know the difference, like when conservative people didn't know the difference. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great to toe the line so much that you would keep that audience the whole time.
Yeah. I still think that would be a great show, though. Like I love I love the idea of like you having that that like David Clark guy as your O'Reilly type character, and it would be funny if you. It would be funny though, like if you actually convinced people it was real. Except that's the thing. Now it might be tough unless you had a really good disguise, because we have this show going also.
Right. Yeah, it has to be a good disguise. Yep.
Yeah.
Dag, Mike. I wish we had I have a good disguise for you.
Oh yeah?
I do. Hold on a second.
Okay.
What are you eating?
This place called Ginger House. It's like vegan fusion, like Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai.
Cool.
Pretty good.
Do they have like the good kind of fake meat? Because I've eaten some like fake vegan Chinese food that I've been amazed by how real it tasted.
This was good. Yeah, this was good. There's a place that makes better vegan chicken nugget things.
This would be a good disguise.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, it wouldn't.
Oh, is that a 3D? Is that a VR joint?
No, it's a censorship bar.
Word.
That's like what they have on those like on those news shows where someone's being handcuffed or something, and they like want to have their face blurred out or blacked out.
Yeah. Well, I did that accidentally to one of the videos. I was trying to like blurt out my shirt, and it ended up like getting on my face. It was kind of funny.
Oh wow!
Like, I was like,
is that like a setting you can do?
It's like a YouTube editing effect.
Oh, cool.
It just didn't work. I just wanted to do it for a certain space in the video, and it just continued for the rest of the video. So those things are a little clunky.
Yeah, it's always funny when I hit like a particular setting and then forget how to unset it. Like I forget a few years ago when I was doing some canvassing job, I had to block my I had to disable my pop-up blocker, and then it took me like 6 months to figure out how to re-enable it, so I just kept getting pop-ups.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So like this, it just went from your shirt to like your head.
Yeah, but it was kind of cool because it was like, it looked like some kind of virtual reality block I had in my head. Like I was telling KD, like you could almost pretend it was some kind of futuristic, way that people see each other or something. Instead of being on your phone all day, you're just looking at this block and you can see other people. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe when VR gets to the next level, we'll have something like that.
That would be a great movie concept.
Yeah, for real.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Have you watched Black Mirror at all?
Love Black Mirror.
Including the episode where you could choose your own adventure.
Oh yeah, that was intense.
That was groundbreaking.
Yeah,
How many of you jumped off the building?
It's kind of funny because
definitely at least a couple times.
Yeah, I was trying to go. I mean, I feel like that whole thing encouraged you to make bad decisions. Like I tried to take the most responsible route, which I would do if I was in that character's position. Like I chose to talk to the therapist, and then I chose to take my meds, but then that just leads to your video game being a mediocrity and you're forced to start over. It's like it encourages you to make the most self-destructive decisions possible.
Right.
Yeah, I was bugging when the therapist turned into a samurai sword fighter.
Oh, that was great.
Like, wow.
Yeah. I forget, there was like some Reddit page that had every possible combination of events listed as like a flow chart.
Oh, wow. I wish I would have got that. I would have did them all.
Yeah. Yeah, I should go back and play that a few times, because that is the funny thing. You almost don't even want to say watching it. It almost becomes like playing it, because for like a whole month, whenever I had some downtime, I would basically watch that episode again and again and try to do a different series of choices.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's the future of cinema.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I wonder.
That's got to be crazy on the actors. Like, how many scenes do they have to?
Oh my God!
Yeah.
It's like you might as well sign a contract. Like, you got to pay me like at least $100 million.
Well,
this is like a 5 movies in one.
I mean, yeah, that's that. I didn't even think about that, but that's a crazy thing, because I read that they shot like 7 hours of footage for that. But I mean, having spent time on sets, like they'll do hundreds of takes. So just realizing that for all those hours, they probably did thousands of takes. I mean, it's really, really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of film that's left on the cutting room floor.
Definitely.
But what was that? That was called the Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch, yeah.
Yeah, Bandersnatch. That was good. That was an interesting thing.
Yeah, based on the book by Jerome Davies, who went cuckoo and hacksawed his wife's head off or something. I forget.
Oh wow.
Yeah. At least I had to look it up, because I thought that guy was actually a real author at first, but he wasn't, of course. But it's funny. Maybe if you want to go back and read a Choose Your Own Adventure at some point. I read one as a kid.
Those were fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good thing.
That's exactly what it reminded me of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna have to take an exit for a second. I gotta take the dog out.
Okay, cool. I understood.
Yeah, I'm like, one more day. I'm kind of like surprised I didn't have any special instructions tonight for what tomorrow's going to be like, being like the last day of the campaign, it being voting day.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, this environment of socially distant campaigning must be particularly hectic, because this is probably like the first election day that you've worked in this brave new world, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, others have worked on their
Mhm.
campaigns, especially in other states and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, this will be the first time for me.
That was insane. Remember when Wisconsin had their primary, like right during the worst of it?
Yeah, we got people in our organization that work Wisconsin. Sure do.
God,
Super hectic.
I hope they were being paid like quadruple their normal rate for that, because that is insane. And there actually were people who died as a result of that primary.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people should be held accountable for
Yeah,
that.
including the DNC,
Yeah.
which I think fought to keep it on that date.
Yeah, that was a lot of working class black folks involved in that too.
It's true, yeah. Yeah, people who work the polls, and probably couldn't get off.
Yep, just like all those voters in that district.
Yeah. It's amazing, though, that the Republicans, it kind of came back to bite them, because they were thinking that a low turnout primary would guarantee their incumbent judge would win, but it turned out he was so hated that he lost anyway. So that was just one hilarious, one funny thing that came out of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's what the Georgia governor has been trying to do, is like just put people in a position where there's going to be lower voter turnout.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean Georgia is one of the worst states. Like, from everything I've read, Stacey Abrams should have been elected governor last time.
Oh yeah, for real. For real. Yep. I mean, they were literally turning back busloads of people that they had registered to vote. Claiming that these old people were kidnapped against their will. Like, that's like some really old school, racial Jim Crow tactics.
Yeah, exactly. Like during the days when they would accuse like civil rights protesters of being outside agitators.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
It's crazy to think too, because a lot of those states don't have mail-in voting, and there is a very good chance that on election day we could be in the midst of a second wave, and it's really horrifying to think about what could happen as the result of millions of people going to the polls in the midst of an already bad pandemic. I mean, it could get really, really bad as a result of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's crazy is, like, there's people that don't trust the whole mail-in ballot system and everything like that. But I wonder what's going to be the deal for November, if they're going to try to temper the whole risk of people going out with a mail-in absentee ballot type system.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, that's interesting that some people don't trust it, because I've kind of had the thought that mail-in voting seems more trustworthy and more straightforward, since they just need to be delivered to the Board of Elections. But do some people think that like it would be more susceptible to tampering, like local Republicans would pay pay off the postal service or something? I mean, that probably sounds dumb, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what the thinking is, so I don't want to put words in their mouths or make them look stupid or whatever. To be honest, I don't know how far they've thought it out, or it's just because there's just a history of shady things going on around voting that people are just nervous for doing something they haven't really done before.
Yeah, that's very understandable. I totally forgot. I totally forgot to order a mail-in ballot, so I'm going to the polls tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe told you about my fiasco that I forgot to sign one of the envelopes that I
Ooh.
needed to stuff the ballot into. So I thought it was just the return ballot, pre-postage paid, and then stuff, the ballot in that envelope. But there was a second envelope besides the pre-postage paid envelope, and that was the one that the ballot needed to be stuffed into, and I needed to sign the back of it. And so I found that in my room, like after I had already mailed off the ballot. And I'm like, oh shit, what's this?
Man.
And so I called the BOE, and they're like sending me to like supervisors who aren't answering and whose voicemails are all full. And I finally leave a message, don't get a call back. And then the DSA has been calling me or texting me about like helping out with their candidates, which some of them are the same candidates we're already going for. And I told them about my situation. They're like, ask for the absentee ballot department next time you call. So I call, I get the same exact guy who's been picking up every time. And I tell him to send me to the absentee department. And he's like, why? What do you need? And I was like, well, send me to the absentee department. This and this happened with my absentee ballot. And he's like, oh, I can help you. And then he starts helping me. And that's like, you sent me to 5 other people the day before.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's what's funny when you deal with these bureaucracies, is you realize how badly they're run, and sometimes it just depends on getting lucky and talking to the right person.
Yeah, the right person, the right day, with the exact right thing to say.
Yeah.
So turns out he told me I could, even though I still had time, I couldn't request another absentee ballot because, like he says, I had already voted, whatever that means. So I'm like, well, I know I can still go in person. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, what about early voting? Can I do that? And then he checks out a few things, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
that's a weird thing to say. You already voted. I mean, that sounds like it could be used as a weird catch-22 type situation.
Yeah,
where,
no, I wasn't comfortable when he said that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do you mean I already voted? You mean I already sent in an invalid, ballot that won't be counted according to the rules? Like, what do you mean I already voted? So then I get to the polling place, which these polling places are farther away from where you live instead of just a block or two like they normally are in New York City. This place is like 14 street blocks away, and then like two a little more than 2 avenue blocks away. So I took an Uber to get there, and then I get there. I'm the only one there, so that's cool, right? No line at all. They give me one sheet of paper, and so I fill it out, and I'm like, wait a minute, this just has the presidents and their delegates on here. I'm like, wait a minute, what about the assembly people? Like, I know there's more people, and the reason that I know is because I had just filled out the entire ballot a few days before, right? I had just done that one. So I asked them about it, and they're sure. Like, no, some people just get one. Depends on where you live. No. And I'm like, no, I just did this the other day, and I'm trying to tell them about the absentee ballot without telling them too much, because I don't want to freak them out, and I don't want them to say, oh, you've already voted, right? So I'm like, no, trust me. I know what I'm talking about. I filled this out before. There's more. So then they get a supervisor who isn't really sure either. He goes somewhere trying to figure out. They finally come back, and they're like, oh, the printer was out of paper. Here's your other sheet. I'm like, well, good thing I pushed back 5 times. Otherwise, I would have been a ass out voter.
Yeah, that's the thing you realize, is that a lot of the times it becomes a war of attrition in a sense, and like the individual polling workers or the people at the board of elections, you know, you're not necessarily going to attribute malice to them, but the way the system is set up is designed almost to discourage people from voting, because most people that have jobs and lives are not necessarily going to push back in the way you did. So that's troubling, and it's one reason we need to be able to fight for a more transparent, I guess for a more streamlined and easier process to easier process when it comes to registering to vote and going to vote, really.
And just putting a lot of energy and time into proper education, right? Like, I happen to be educated on this literally from the mistake I made a few days ago. I mean, now, if I hadn't made that mistake, probably what would have happened was I would have left, and then something would have been bothering me either on the way home or home, and then I would have finally been like, wait a minute, I only voted for the president and the delegates. What about like Marcella Matenas, who I knocked on doors with for DSA, like, you know, before this whole COVID thing? What about, you know, such and such, this Love character that's, you know, running in Nita Lowey's district? I mean, I wouldn't have remembered who he was going against if it wasn't, again, for the ballot. But like, something would have finally clicked, and it would have been too late, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I would have already left the facility. They would have been able to tell me, like, well, there's thousands of ballots, we can't find yours. Well, actually, maybe it wouldn't have been so hard, because like I said, there was no line, but who knows? It would have been out of my hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that there's two separate ballots, and to some degree this has to do probably with the fact that Cuomo himself was trying to cancel the primary, and it seems like an effort at voter suppression, because people who vote for Bernie Sanders are more likely to vote for down ballot candidates, and people who vote for Bernie, I think, are more likely to be the type of people, this is just a guess, but the type of people who you know, are heavily informed on politics and more likely to request a ballot at home. So it seems like it's very deliberately calculated to prevent any candidates who are sort of affiliated with Bernie from you know, unseating incumbents.
Yeah, and if I was going to do something like that, what would be the easiest way to do it without a paper trail? Maybe just you know, maybe it's up to your discretion as captain of your block, what to do with a certain amount of funding that you get, and maybe you just don't hire the best people to work the polls, or you just don't put any energy into like actually sitting down with the poll workers and saying, hey, this is how it goes. Everybody gets 2 sheets of paper, blah, 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 blah. If this happens, here's a contingency. If this happens, here's a contingency. You know, just setting out certain rules. I mean, you can't think of everything, but I'm sure that everyone gets 2 sheets of paper rule is pretty easy to figure out and dole out.
Yeah, I think for a lot of these career politicians, like of all positions, poll worker seems to be one that's very prone probably to patronage, and to them just, you know, handing jobs out to their cronies who or like the kid, the son or nephew of a friend of theirs who might be home from school, people who might not even pay attention to politics at all, and it's almost in their interest to not even train these poll workers, to just tell them to just hang out and get paid $300 a day to just stand outside the polling place, and most of the time you could just read a book or browse on your phone.
Yeah. See, the interesting thing is when it comes to the general, you have to have someone from like the Democrats and someone from the Republicans like watching the same polling station, but I don't know what the rule is if it's just a primary, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting to think about. I mean, I worked primary day like a couple years ago for that guy Suraj Patel. I worked at one of the polling places, but I wasn't an official poll worker. I just stood outside and passed out literature. I don't know if the campaigns themselves, you would probably know better than I do, if the campaigns themselves like just hire poll workers, because it seems like yeah, like for the general elections, it's a Democrat and Republican, but not a Democrat and Republican from the campaigns, right?
Well, no. I mean, I got to watch the polls. Uh, you know, as we had like supported a candidate. You know, we got to be. I guess it was in our best interest, right, to make sure nothing shady was going on, so that our people would have like a good chance. So yeah, we campaigned, you know, for certain politicians, and then we also, you know, went to those poll sites and just stuck around to make sure everything was running smoothly,
Yeah.
including the count at the end, like helping with the count.
Like relaying the precinct count back to headquarters.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember I did that years ago on one of the first campaigns I worked on back in Connecticut. Like I remember, like, this is in like 2006. It was a congressional race, and I think I remember we drove to another town to pick up that town's votes as they came in, and called them back to headquarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 sec. I'll be back. Yeah.